Mambo Vipi, what's happening? My name is Anyiko, Owoko, and I am a lover of arts, culture, and everything African. And here, we grant you front row access to your favorite celebrities, creators, the biggest personalities, and industry experts. Come with me. You're now a VIP. This is what to expect on this week's episode.
I've toured around the globe in over 87 cities, and I had a residency at The Alchemist in Westlands, and I used to open before Mixmaster Lenny on Thursdays. It was a free residency, but it was great for me to sort of like perform with very low pressure. So moved from earning 0 bob to playing for a friend's market called Pop Up and Chill. And then in the same year that I was to shoot my first feature film, I was picked to perform at the first Boiler Room in Nairobi, back at The Alchemist.
I had to start looking around and seeing who is that DJ I want to be and how exactly did the DJ get to that position. So you learn that, you try and move around the clubs in Nairobi to try and see where he plays and talk to them. And then you realize you have to now know how to use different machines. Forget now the software that you already know. So how do you interact software to hardware? And then after learning that, then you learn you have to do a lot of music collections because then the music language is very diverse.
I feel like a lot of people have come to learn about Njerae without even knowing who Njerae is or what Njerae looks like, because a lot of my music is being played just through DJs, not only in clubs, but also on YouTube. There's like even specific playlists that are just DJ sets that are just Njerae set, you know.
Hello, and welcome back to VIP Access. Happy Tuesday. From wherever you're listening, it's always great to have your company. Whoa, where do I start? This week is pretty emotional for me because we are finally coming to the end of season 5. It's been so amazing. I really can't tell you how thankful I am for this season, for the fact that you've all been coming back to listen to the podcast on a different week, and for the fact that we've built such a strong community at Industry Talks and have been able to repurpose all the conversations we've been having over there here at the podcast. It's been an excellent season that has featured so many conversations that are very valuable if you want to get into the industry and learn how to navigate, how to sharpen your art and craft. We've discussed various topics from music streaming, intellectual property, copyright, the art of building sustainable influencer entrepreneurship, building an online footprint and becoming your own new media, how content creation, music and culture is shaping Africa's narrative, the art and business of writing music for film and TV, then licensing your sound for ads, film and TV. We also talked about what does success look like and what are the rules for what an African creator can build. Making Kenyan stories bankable, safety planning for more inclusive and safer spaces in the industry, curating festivals, inside event production. It has been an absolutely amazing season. We're finally coming to the end of this season, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to have season 6. That's also coming. We'll still continue with the Industry Talks conversations hosted at the Goethe Institute. We're going to have more partners joining in the coming season. We rolled out workshops this year. We already had 2 workshops, one on how to package your album properly, all the way from concept to sound and distribution. That was the first one we had in collaboration with Kilele Fest earlier on this year. And then last week we had a workshop on music production and just building your sonic identity that was hosted and facilitated by Fancy Fingers of Sauti Soul, the amazing guitarist, composer, and artist. It's been amazing. I'm going to get too emotional. Okay, anyway, let's get into this week. The conversation we're having this week is the future of Nairobi nightlife and the intersection between the business, culture, and evolving sound. This week is spotlighting DJs. DJs are far more than just selectors behind the decks. They've become cultural curators, tastemakers, and key drivers of music discovery, nightlife culture, and audience behavior. And as Kenyan and African music continues to gain global attention, DJs are increasingly sitting at the center of both culture and commerce, shaping what people hear, how they experience nightlife, and how sound travels across platforms. On part one of this episode, we are hosting amazing DJs and a musician who I'm sure you have heard of and love her music. Schwaz Isaboke, or DJ Schwaz, is a DJ, producer, and the music lead at Capital FM. Coco Em is a multidisciplinary artist and DJ. I would say one of Kenya's most traveled DJs. And Njerae is your amazing, amazing singer, performing artist, and just all-round good vibes kind of personality whose music is doing quite well in the country, in Kenya at the moment. Her music was one of the most streamed on Spotify last year. On today's conversation, we want to unpack the evolution of DJ culture and nightlife in Kenya. And we also want to explore the full ecosystem from curation, set building, and crowd psychology to bookings, contracts, branding, endorsement, and digital presence. We also want to know, is it commercially viable to be a DJ? And what do you need to do as a DJ to survive in today's fast-moving music economy? Let's get straight into it. Welcome to Industry Talks. This is our fourth conversation event this year. Today we're spotlighting DJs, the nightlife, the club culture, the intersection between all these moving parts. How does a DJ relate to an artist? How does an artist promote themselves to the DJs, into the night scene, over and beyond the radio scene? So we want to talk about this, but most importantly, is being a DJ bankable? I think I would like to carry forward the conversation from where we left it last Industry Talks was a few weeks ago, but we're discussing making Kenyan stories bankable. And I feel like making ourselves bankable, making what we do a business, is a forever continuous journey and story for us as creatives. With me is a very esteemed panel.
Kwa majina naitwa Emma Mbekenzioka. Those are my government names, and I go by the stage name Coco Em. So as Anyiko mentioned, I am a DJ. I've been practicing for over 8-9 years. I produce as well. I'll be releasing an album next year. I've toured around the globe in over 87 cities, and I am also a curator. I'm currently the creative director of a very popular club. I know all of you know it, maybe you don't. It's in Westlands, in the mall at the basement. It's called The Mist, if anyone knows where The Mist is. So we program a lot of underground alternative music culture there. We have programming from Wednesdays all through until Saturday. So if you have time, go pass by there. And on my side B, I am a filmmaker, I'm a cinematographer, I'm a photographer, I'm a noisemaker, and I run a small project called Pass, which advocates for the removal of stringent travel measures meted on people who travel from Africa, from Asia, the Caribbean. So if you see any visa drama, maybe my name will be somewhere there. So yeah, that's me. Thank you.
As you've heard, my name is Njerae, Njerae. I'm a singer, songwriter, performing artist, producer, instrumentalist, guitarist, cute girl, lover girl, simp, mama Africa, all those nice little cute things. Lol. Yeah, and today we're just here to pass on knowledge that, you've been fortunate enough to acquire over our time being in the industry. And I hope you guys find this a fruitful, and we've poured into you a feeling talk. Yeah.
My name is Schwaz Isaboke, a DJ. I think to specify, I'm a radio producer, better yet, an audio producer, and I also lead the programs and music department at Capital FM.
When did you start DJing, and when did DJing start paying your bills?
That's a very interesting question. So I fell in love with music, I think, very early when I was born. This has to be just the first time when my father, to be specific, was playing records in the house. So there's just that feeling of, my favorite artist growing up was Koffi Olomide and Awilo. So there's that feeling of every single day asking my parents, so if I want to learn music and be like these guys, which school do I go to? Because growing up, the whole thing was you need to go to school, be successful, and have a career. But then I realized so fast that it wasn't a funny question, because then between asking to play music and my shouting as a kid, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, whatever. I think the other side is what my parents took more seriously than anything else. And as you grow up and you integrate with music a lot, then you fall in love with music a lot. So I was fortunate enough to be in that era when now music moved from the pop side, the Lingala side, and then we had our Kenyan sound. And that was very interesting to me. And we had to cut pieces from magazines and stick it in our books and sing lyrics, and then you just became that naughty kid in school who, to be very specific, in primary school, that guy who sings lyrics. And then when you maybe move to the next grade, which is high school, you are always that guy who's in school with CDs, who was, the music journey had now moved into video when Pina was doing a lot of the beat. So the guy with the latest videos is the collecting guy. So kind of you're still like collecting music. So you do it in high school, you're caught once, twice, and then you end up being the entertainment prefect. So the story is there, but you're the only one who's seeing your vision. Not everybody is trying to see what you're doing. You're that mischievous kid. I still was very clear with my grades. And then when I joined campus is when I had now the liberty to try, because now I'd practically left home. So I don't have my parents really monitoring what I'm doing in the evening and all that. So that's when I realized we've really moved from vinyl collection, from CD collection. We can actually now store music in our laptops and play it. So the first thing I did is play a trick to my parent and say, we need to have a laptop for school. And then the first thing you do is get a laptop, download music in it, and then download virtual DJ. So I think I interacted with that very early in 2011 through to 2012. And then we had this long break. And then in between, Plisna was doing something was called Plisna Mfalme. And then just the thought process of the fact that I've interacted with this software, I can be able to actually do it. And then I realized very fast when I get into the competition that I'm very far behind from actually what the DJing process is. So then I start reading about it. I start understanding about it. There's a book, I think it was called 50 Rules of DJing, that I downloaded. So I started understanding what exactly it means. So first thing is I had to start looking around and seeing who is that DJ I want to be and how exactly did the DJ get to that position. So you learn that, you try and move around the clubs in Nairobi to try and see where he plays and talk to them. And then you realize you have to now know how to use different machines. Forget now the software that you already know. So how do you interact software to hardware? And then after learning that, then you learn you have to do a lot of music collections, because then the music language is very diverse. Then really not many DJs were doing specifications like we are at the moment. You can be a house DJ, and I'm a piano DJ, a reggae DJ. Then really it was you are either just playing reggae or you're playing everything else. So then you have to learn your catalog of music. And then, yeah, that's how I did learn how to become a DJ. So,
and when did you start making money? Like when you're going to the club and stuff, like were you assisting other DJs? Were you making anything? Were DJs making money then?
To be very honest, DJs were making money then, but a very few. The industry wasn't as wide as it is at the moment. So I graduated from campus in 2015, but I'd already done 2 years of my DJing. I'd already been signed into a DJing unit then. And just immediately when I graduated, I was looking forward to getting my first paycheck. And then I just told my mom, I think I'm ready to pay my bills and I'm off. So all this is good. And I remember come end month, I wasn't paid, which is usually most of the reason of art. So at that point in time, I was left thinking, I have a degree and I have a passion. How do I chase? And I can be very honest that the first time I earned my first paycheck as a DJ has to be late in 2015. It was 2,000 bob, and it was paid to me by Terence the Creative. They used to do a family fun day along Mombasa Road, Churchill and the likes. So I think along my interaction with various students from other universities, somebody told him about my passion for it. So yeah, that was my first paycheck.
Okay, and then from there, the gigs started coming?
No. So the gigs did not start coming. So I think I'm just being honest.
We really don't know the journey of a DJ, you know. And also a lot of people see you or say DJ Joe Mfalme and they're like, oh, I'll just go and be like DJ Joe. But we really don't know how you became who you are.
Yeah. And I think there's one thing that you touched when you started is, do we have stories? And we actually do have stories, but they have not been told. Because ideally what's happening at the moment is everybody picks a DJing deck, and by the next fifth, sixth video, they're all like, why am I not moving around like Joe Mfalme is touring the US at the moment? But then this is 2015 we are talking. I can tell you for a fact the first time I earned a satisfactory check was in 2018. And by this time around, I'd already now figured that, it's this or not. And I have to earn my 10,000 hours. So the thing really about me is I've always invested my time to understand how the industry works. So I learned very early that nobody is going to give it to me. So all I used to do is create DJ friends. So Joe Mfalme, to be exact, where is he playing today? And can I open a set for him? Can I close a set for him? And if that's not possible, can he allow me to sit? Because then at that time, I think the clubs were a bit very different, not as today. So can he allow me to sit at the DJ booth and actually just watch what he's doing? Along that route, I started creating friends. So everybody knew and everybody would call in a favor. I'll be late today. Can you run and do this for me? And then also when events came, I remember homeboys were at that time were really doing a lot of events at Carnival Simba Saloon. So that's what benefited me a lot. So what I would do is when they bring the famous DJs from Jamaica, UK, the US that time, you hustle to pay for that ticket. And then all you do is stand behind that DJ booth. And then you'll meet a host of all those people. So you'll talk to the DJs then, you'll talk to that international DJ, just ask questions, 1 or 2 minutes. So luckily that's how I started knowing people. So the thing about art is there will always be money for everything. So if maybe a client has X amount and this DJ feels or she feels she's above that count, she'll recommend you and say, I think he can do a better job. And then so it's up to you to think about that space that you've been given that day. How do you make the most of it? So the idea is to look far away from the money and think, how can I be a return customer to this guy so that the next time I don't have to be referred. He can do or she can do a direct call to me. And then that way you're able to call the shots. So the next time he calls, you can do for the same price, but by the third time you can say, can we have a conversation?
Yeah, so my story is a bit of a mixed bag because before DJing, I'd already worked like maybe 10 years as a photographer, photojournalist, and a filmmaker. And I think I'll just pull it back to what DJ Schwaz was saying about Kofi Olomide, because that was my mom's favorite record as well. So I think they'd have been best friends. It's also my favorite record right now. But yeah, so my journey was a bit of a just knee-jerk reaction. One, inspired by the fact that I really loved music. So I used to share music on Facebook back when the timeline was the place where you found out what your friend was doing. So you had to go to their timeline. So I'd share YouTube videos. A lot of hip hop music was what I started sharing. And I had a residency at the Alchemist in Westlands. And I used to open before Mixmaster Lenny on Thursdays. And I used to play for my sister and the bartenders, and they loved it. And it was a free residency, but it was great for me to sort of perform with very low pressure. So moved from earning 0 bob to playing for a friend's market called Pop Up and Chill. I don't know if anyone knows Pop Up and Chill. It happens once every other month. And I earned there, I think it was my first 5K. So yeah, I topped you, Schwartz. Your first check was 2K, mine was 5,000. And I was still hey, in this economy, I don't know. But I was really grateful for that as well. Because at the time, I was also working as a filmmaker. And then in the same year that I was to shoot my first feature film under the mentorship of Ginger Inc. Films and One Fine Day Films, as one of the first female cinematographers, I was sort of picked to perform at the first boiler room in Nairobi, back at the Alchemist. And that was not fast. Thank you. Now, that was my first big paycheck. I will disclose it was 64,000. And I was like, wow, all of it for me. And you will pay me on time. I didn't chase them or anything. It was great. It was amazing. And then I got lucky enough to make friends in the scene as well. As Schwaz said, friends in the scene sort of help push you in the direction that you want to go in. But like, you know, when you're in the forest and you cut the way through. So for me, that person was Kampire from Uganda, who was already touring. I think in the same year where I was playing the Boiler Room, she had just headlined at Sona Festival. It's a massive festival, 200,000 people. And I'm seeing a Ugandan woman who looks just like me just on the stage. So I was like, this is the direction. And so she had an agent called Kit Bransby, who was based in the UK. I reached out to Kit. I was like, hi, also me, I'm a good DJ. Can you work with me? And they were like, no, you need to sort of like develop your skill for a bit more, get your name out there, tighten up your IG page. It has too many cat photos and I don't know, random things. Just tighten it up, make it look cute. Make it so that when a promoter looks at the page, they know exactly what you do. And so I hit him up again after a year. That was end of 2019. And he agreed to take me on. And so he got me 24 shows the next year, 2020. But somewhere in March, the country shut down with COVID. And he quit the music business and became a doctor. So I had no agent all of a sudden. My dreams of headlining, I don't know where Sona, Glasgow, gone. So in those 2-3 years, I started working very closely with Santuri, which is the electronic music school. It's based in Westlands at the basement. And before we were in Muringa in Kilimani. So I was leading online workshops on music production, which is something I taught myself during the COVID period. And it's all thanks to Joseph Kamaru. I don't know if you guys know Kamaru. He's also an electronic ambient producer, performer. His grandfather is the Joseph Kamaru, the legend. And so he told us about an online course where you could learn how to produce with this software called Ableton. So we sat down, me and my partner at the time, we rounded up a group of women and we produced at a friend's house music with a cracked software because we couldn't afford it. And then we wrote to them and said, see what nice things we've made with your cracked software. And then they gave us licenses. And from there, we developed a program for Santuri, which was the first online production program. It's still on YouTube. If you guys can visit like Santuri SEMA program, it's there. Then after that, like, you know, because of my background in photojournalism, I worked for 3.5 years at Nation Media. I was very tied to anything that I did, I was tied to people, and I was covering a lot of social interest, politics, and crime at Nation. But I feel like I transferred that into the music so that as I'm playing, I'm like, how come people are not getting paid enough? Then you try and make things a bit easier for DJs as you transfer the skills that you have or the skills that you're trying to transfer to the communities. So we have a very big thing on gender parity. The percentage is either 50-50, like representation of both men and women and non-binary genders, and it's transferred to every program that has been created. You mentioned Onja Onja as well, which was pioneered by Justin Duthett within the Santuri fraternity. And it's been a journey of learning, a lot of hurdles. And one of the hurdles has been when we tour, it's not very easy to get documentation, visas, things like those. And so just to go back to how much I was earning, because I feel like I'm veering away, I'm orbiting away. From zero bob to the other day, I was offered $10,000 to make a 1-hour set. So it's possible. DJs are very bankable. That's all I have to, yes. So if you're a DJ right now, thank you. But I will say that the times are different from when we started.
I see people clocking it. Clock it.
Yeah. So basically, the times are very different, which was the other question that you asked. When we started, we weren't as many. As you said, right now, there's DJs everywhere. Everybody can become a DJ. You can start your DJ career today and it will pop off because of social media. And depending on how you package yourself, if you've already honed the skill and you love music, you can really take off. The sad thing is that because there's so many DJs, you can be just as easily drowned in this market, right? So it's a career where in a couple, I don't know if it will be as bankable for everyone. It will definitely be bankable for a few, those who are able to rise above and fight this algorithm monster, which I hate. But it only makes the mist more important because we cultivate very personal connections. Community is very important in the physical space. So you big up your DJ online, yes, but you come see them and you buy the ticket, which will go towards their salary or like to the venue's upkeep. And that's the kind of work that we're leaning more towards at the Mist.
Fantastic. Njerae, I know you're not a DJ, but we also want to know your story. I mean, just in summary, getting into the music industry, did you always know you wanted to be in the music industry? And when did something, I don't want to say your breakthrough, when did something happen and you're like, yes, this is it for me. Like, I'm sure I want to do this. What role has the DJ ecosystem played in your career or continues to play, or how do you see opportunity to plug into the DJ scene more?
I personally started singing when I was like in kindergarten, but I didn't really know I wanted to do. I'm very introverted, so anything like in front of cameras and whatnot felt very weird for me at that time. But also music just felt like the place where I didn't have to think. I would just do it and it would feel comfortable, you know? So, of course, when you're young, you don't know what it is you want to do with your life. So you're just tapping into everything and whatnot. But when I joined high school, I think that's the time I discovered people like Fee and Tori Kelly. And it was a discovery for me to see these young women standing in front of a stage, playing a guitar and singing some very, low, intimate type of songs, and people are actually enjoying and like vibing with what they are doing, and they don't have to like be, in a short dress or, it's just about the music. And from then on, I was like, oh, okay, so I can actually try and do this thing. But I still had the introvert situation. So how can I like cut across being an artist and dealing with my introversy? So I started writing. That's how I started getting into songwriting, because I did not talk much. I'd use the music to talk for me. And yeah, I just kind of became comfortable. And after a while, I was just like, I don't think I want to do anything else. It doesn't make sense for me to sit in an office and someone tell me, yo, go bring me coffee. That was not for me. I felt like I just wanted to wake up in the morning and write this thing that felt like I'm just journaling, and it will bring some sort of light to someone's world. So I started doing some research on music schools and music situations, but it was music in Kenya. I didn't want to go outside because I wanted to do music for Kenyans in Kenya. And I felt like if I go, then I won't understand the culture here anymore, because you have to be on the ground to like know what people are dealing with, know what people are talking about. So nikaingia Sauti Academy after high school. And at that point, I still did not know that I could do this thing like a career. It still didn't make sense to me because I was not seeing people around me who were actually surviving off music. It was either I'm doing music and something else and other something else's. So I wasn't understanding how comes no one is just doing music on its own. So when I joined Sauti Academy, I'm so determined to understand these things. So I would spend literally all my days just interacting with artists and being around these spaces so that I can understand, the things to do, the things not to do. This is how you should talk to people. This is how you should carry yourself, things like that. And I think those are the things that help me also just get ready for the industry, things like knowing how to do an elevator pitch, which seems like a very small thing, but it can be something that can ruin your entire career, So yeah, just that small research. And then, Sauti Academy, after Sauti Academy, I think I was just like, I don't care who listens to the music. I just want to release it. So that's how I ended up releasing my first album, which was such a huge success. I didn't even understand. But then now to come to your question of how DJs have also helped with shaping what I do, I personally did not know anything about MP3, WAV, or 3 pieces, or because I grew up doing everything myself, I just knew if I just have the file and a track, it doesn't matter, it can be played anywhere, right? Hata kwa simu, I can just go and plug it in and play it. But being in these spaces and interacting with DJs, tena mali DJ akwambia una WAV, and you go and just like, you ananikataza juu niko na MP3 na sina WAV, and you don't understand the importance of such small things. So I feel like just these small interactions have also helped me be super prepared when it comes to when I release a song. I know I need a 3-piece to send out to DJs, so that's the only way they'll play the music, But also at the same time, I feel like a lot of people have come to learn about Njerae without even knowing who Njerae is or what Njerae looks like, because a lot of my music is being played just through DJs, not only in clubs, but also on YouTube. There's even specific playlists that are just DJ sets that are just Njerae set, which tend to Schwaz my music move a lot quicker, because the people who listen to Schwaz are not necessarily the people who listen to me, So if he is doing a whole set for just Njerae, he's opened me up to a whole new audience. So yeah, I think just having DJs in these spaces, they've really added to the development and the growth of Kenyan music, not only in the Kenyan space, but also outside, because I'm sure when Coco goes uko nje, she's playing our music, and there's a couple of people in there who don't know our sound, and they'll hear our sound and be like, oh my gosh, that's actually really cool. So yeah, shout out to DJs for doing their thing.
I wanted to ask you about touring with a DJ or having a set with a DJ. I don't know if you do that. That's also an interesting dynamic I've seen between artists. Is this something you've tried or something you can comment on?
It's not something I've tapped into a lot, but I had to do it for the Australian tour. I was working with a lot of different DJs that I didn't even know that I was meeting for the first time. But I think also, he said now people are specializing, Before, I would go on stage and a DJ is playing Brakaf your back, it doesn't make sense. But now it helps that there's DJs who can just handle R&B music. So they set the tone for even the audience to know what's happening and whatnot, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think also the live scene is something that we are tapping into slowly by slowly, and we have to also find ways to make people, listen to us. So sometimes it helps to have a DJ. Yes, the DJ can play tracks, but they don't have to be those tracks. I don't know if I'm making sense. But yeah, so we don't have to cut each other. We can also work together and, move. Coco and I, Schwaz and I can have a whole tour together, and he does his set, I sing, she does her set, and things work smoothly. Yeah.
How do you feel about this thing? I always hear people saying DJs were Kenya. They're the ones who are making people listen to, I don't know which music, what music. This conversation is really hard for me to even repeat, because I also feel bad when Kenyan audiences are faulted for being so diverse or listening to particular music. So I don't know, as DJs, what do you think about this? What role do you play furthering Kenyan music, African music, and how do you receive this music, discover this music, or how is it best for you then to receive this music?
I think that's a very fair ask from our listeners, to be very specific, because personally I love Kenyan music, and Kenyan music is very sweet. So here's the thing, I always cut it into two. There's the part of the DJ, which he or she needs to do their research. Part of the job of the DJ is to break music. So to be very specific, if you're playing in an establishment, your first part for that gig that night is to entertain, but you're also supposed to educate. And I always feel that's where maybe most of the time we do go wrong, not being brave enough to play a record that's come out, just depending on how you feel about it, and not really just leaving the crowd to bounce off. And there's also the pressure of also where you're playing and maybe the time sets. And this is really much so for us open format DJs, where you find if you're headlining that set, 90% of the time you are expected to play exactly what's broken off, like what's the hit of the night. And as much as you want to entertain, I'll be very selfish and say everybody's thinking about how can I be a repeat customer to this specific establishment. So you end up quite possibly not being very creative in your set, but almost playing, that new hit by Njerae, that new hit by Bien, Bensol, But the beauty about what Kenya has become is it's become very diverse with music, and to be specific, Kenyan music. And just to divert and go to her question is the concert scene really enjoys live music more than playback, for lack of a better word. So that's why sometimes you see even huge superstars can come to Kenya and the following morning the conversation is he dropped a 5 and our guys did good. Or maybe the Afro house scene, you'll see people saying our DJs went far and above and they gave us proper sets, but the guy from South Africa just did the usual thing we see on YouTube. So we're at a place where Kenyans are very far much informed about music, and as a DJ you are actually reminded of what your duty is. So I'll be very specific with my case that there's this division in Nairobi, to be specific, that if you play this side of Nairobi, if you get what I mean, like past this road, this other side, it's called Uptown. And if you play Moi Avenue to the other side, it's called the other side. And there's a sense of feeling that there's some records that can be played here that can be played there, and there's some records that can be played there that can be played here, which to me I feel is wrong. But then establishments are curated differently depending on the owner, the customer that goes there. But I played in a joint in Kahawa, and her album had already come out that time, and I was very brave to play the famous hit, Outfit of the Day and Akisioni. And so here's my thought process. I'm doing a 6-hour set, and at some point I have to try and see where does this song fit. And I think my photographer is in the crowd, and he'll tell you when we played the 2 songs, we had to play at least 4 times because everybody reacted and they were singing word for word. So there's a famous saying, we all have the same records, but we don't play them the same. So it's our duty to be very brave and play that song. And especially in an era where digital informs traditional media. I mean, by the time you're going to that club, trust you me, even if I've been sent that 3-piece, the person in the crowd has already consumed that song, sometimes even more than I have.
Yeah, I won't add much. I think you've said a lot of what I had in mind, especially with regards to what you can play downtown versus uptown. And that's also part of what we have in mind whenever we program at The Mist. So I am welcoming in front of everyone in camera, DJ Schwaz to perform at The Mist as well as Njerae, because it's the perfect intersection of uptown, downtown. It fits into the ethos of what I live by, in that as a DJ, as a tastemaker, as a cultural shaper, and as somebody who breaks a lot of new culture, new songs to the audience, you owe it to the audience to just challenge their thinking. So the DJ wears a lot of hats. You're an entertainer. I've toured and performed in festivals where I had the absolute luxury of playing what I prepared at home and how I was feeling. Those feelings I will transfer to you. But then there's venues where you do the same thing. Somebody will come and be like, how na Chris Brown? How you, like, what kind of DJ is this? Like, I want this birthday song. It's my birthday. So I was like, I think we need to advocate for the respect of DJs, please, because we go through a lot when we're on stage. But also, like Schwaz said, there is a place where the DJ's actual job is to play those songs for you, like a jukebox, because I think there was a transference of entertainment in venues where you used to go to the jukebox, pick the song and dance with your friends. Then somebody one day came there with their, turntables. It was like, so you're also a jukebox, my friend. Play for me this song or play for me this record. So there's a lot of hats that DJs can wear. I think maybe touching on the politics of the DJ or the curatorship, it's like you choose what to play for specific audiences and it gives you a lot of power. And so, like right now, I'm very inclined to look for a club downtown and just go and play some Tamu gum music or some music from I don't know where, some village somewhere in Congo, just to shake up and challenge people's ideas of what culture ought to be. Kenyans are like a sponge as well. We soak up a lot of culture. I've played in Nigeria in spaces where if you play anything other than Afrobeat, just go home. Why did you even come? They'll just look at you like you are a statue. So I feel like in the same breath, in as much as we soak up a lot of culture and we're influenced by it, we're also very creative. We innovate a lot. And so when I play outside, the Kenyan music I play outside a lot more of is gengeton, but I'm known a lot more for my electronic music. And so I'm probably one of those people who are on that fire burn them list of this girl is Kenyan, but she's playing South African music. But I really love South African music. I love South African electronic music. Whenever my Kenyan producers make electronic music, they send it to me in my email address, and I try to weave it into my sets as well. Yeah.
One thing I'd like you all to talk about is how has touring been for you as an artist and as a DJ, and just paint a picture for us how it looks on the road.
Well, for me, I'll say it will give you what you'll give it. As an artist, I feel like based off the tour I just came from, I went in super scared and all those many things, thinking, what if people don't show up? Because you're not in your space, at the end of the day, you're opening up to a new land. But I think just making a lot of noise. Social media has also come to help us a lot. And I feel like with the right kind of marketing, tours shouldn't be so scary. Because at the end of the day, you already know you have an ecosystem of fans, I'm going to Kitale because I know there's people in Kitale who've been asking to watch Njerae. So if anything, I know there's 50 people who will come and watch Njerae in Kitale, So how do I make sure that person in Kitale who doesn't get to see Njerae all the time on their feed will see that I am coming to Kitale? I think that's usually the biggest question for me when I'm planning to go on a tour. How do I make sure that person is able to know? Because maybe they only have 2 hours online the whole week. How do I make sure in those 2 hours I'm able to reach them and they'll have this information? Yeah.
I think in the three of us, I'm the one who's not really toured outside Kenya a lot. But I think there's 2 ways to it, how I see it or how I've experienced it. There's the first time where you say, I'm going to do it myself. And you go, you do a media tour. And then in between there, you have 1 or 2 gigs that you'll play. So how I view it for myself is that 1 or 2 gigs that I'll play is what reimburses me for what I have used. But then you have the bargaining power when then now you're asked to go. You're being booked by either if it's a Kenyan promoter booking you on the other side or it's an independent guy from the other side. So like she said, it's what you give it is what you take. Back home, I think it's fairly better because we all want to reach the farthest person in the corner. So once you get that, then there's this thought process of, I'm living here, I'm going to town X, what's the logistics part? So that helps a lot. So it's just how you're able to plan it all around. So how you speak it, how you give it your all, how you have branded yourself helps you do that math. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with
Said 84 cities.
yes, globally.
In what period?
4 years.
Come on. Or most certainly the most traveled and toured Kenyan DJ. I mean, no, well done. You must tell us how you were able to do this. Touring is no joke.
Yeah, it's no joke. I will say, maybe just to give the credit where it's due, your community is everything. All the friends you make, all those people who swing by Nairobi, you make a friend in, I don't know, Tanzania, in Niger, you just keep contacts. They connect you to the clubs that are in those countries. Then you email and spam them on IG, blah, blah, blah. Like, so for me, connections to friends and people who have their own events, their own venues, or who link me to those people have really come through in all of this touring. So maybe just to explain how the first tour went down. After COVID happened and we lost all of the bookings, half of those festivals folded. They couldn't come back up because they couldn't afford to stay afloat after 2 years of inactivity. A lot of them had to reimburse so many artists because the touring that's done, say, in more developed musical environments, like in South Africa, Nigeria, in Europe, they book people 6 months to 7 months in advance. And sometimes they've paid you a deposit. Maybe they've already booked your flights, your hotels. So reimbursing people during the COVID period sunk a lot of festivals. So as soon as I, started coming back to myself and I was like, you know what, I don't have an agent, but I have all these emails that, we had been going back and forth with some of the promoters. So decided to just email everybody in the mailing list. And then I think about 4 people responded and said, maybe you could come next year. And then one of them said yes. I was like, Bas, I have a tour. So they were like, we can pay you €1,000, but we can't pay your flight. So I had to borrow money for my first tour to pay for the flight and reimburse the person I borrowed from that fee that I got. Now that I have a tour, I have a date in one country. I was like, who do I know in this country? And who can I start connecting with and be like, hey, you guys, I'm going to be in Europe. Do you have a show? I don't care whether it's a birthday, a wedding, whatever. What do you have for me in those cities? And so I built a really strong tour of like 12 venues. I think it was about 3-4 cities, but the way I advertised that thing, it looked like we were taking over the world. First of all, I really, advertising does some very interesting things. So I just stacked the different dates. I squeezed them so they looked many. Then I put the dates there. Then it's like you're repeating cities, but it's okay. And then now you put the name of the cities and you put your car photo there. So that was my first tour. It was tough as hell because first and foremost, I was accepting gigs, like 1 gig in France, then Sweden the next day, then back to France on the Sunday, without realizing that France and Sweden are not close. I don't know how far France is from Sweden, but then now after the show, like say you finish the show at 2 a.m., you have to be in a cab at 4 a.m., then you go to a train, then at 6 a.m., then you fly to Sweden, then you arrive at 3 p.m., then you can't check into the hotel until 4 p.m., then now you play, and then you come back there. Listen, it was crazy, but I'm not going to show the struggle in the beginning. I'll just be like, here we are in Sweden, and then play the show, come back to France, finish that show. And for me, the most important thing was just to do my best at each city, document it and keep moving. And so that the next year now the tour was a lot easier because by then you've put your name out there. People know, who's this girl from? Africa. Because like all the Black people on most of the lineups are from Europe or from North America. I did a Canadian tour. So they're not very used to seeing like Africans not based in Europe touring in Europe. And that became quite a sticking point because I was bleeding more money than the people who are based there because they can't afford to pay your flights. So you're the one paying your flights. So you have to find a way to make it work. So it's quite expensive. Your friends come through in that in between the tours, like say you have 2 dates, 1 weekend, then now you have 5 days of, nothingness. You have to crash on someone's sofa. I've slept on a sleeping bag, which was leaking. So at like 1 hour, it's on the ground. Then now you pump it again. You wake up, then now you're touring. And another thing was like this jarring, like feeling of not being in your city. Like not only is it jarring on the stage, but also in the city itself. There's like very hostile people. They're just like, anytime you come and ask, like, can you help me read this city? So that they just like stay away from me, pass on. So it was a culture shock. It takes a lot of zeal. Like you really need like roho, like just a very strong will. And for me, the end goal was also to just, there's a point where there was even no goal at all. I won't even lie. But at some point, it was to make as many connections within the diaspora, connect them to the continent, because every time I'd go, I'd have so many stories of people that people just could not imagine. and I'd take these stories back to Europe. So like we've really used these connections in building up the programs within Pass. And we also have like, I'll just sidebar and self-plug. We have a program called Vukampaka. We've only managed to do 2 editions, but what it is if you imagine going to Ghana, for example, but you've never been and you can't afford to go. So we introduce you to Ghana on the screen. So we'll invite a collective to share what they do. So there's been collectives that have performance incubators, they have film producers, they meet you on the screen live, you exchange contacts, and then on the same night, because we partner with Unseen Nairobi, we eat food from Ghana, like a dish selected from
Sounds like a dope
continent.
event.
Yeah. So we've done 2, one focused on Ghana and the other was focused on Congo. But it's to now push for more intra-African connection, because I'm currently preparing to go to Cote d'Ivoire, and I'll tell you the flight between Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana is like $500, and it's a 1-hour trip, right? So just traveling is just crazy expensive for Africans, let alone just for a DJ. I won't say struggle, because we're not struggling. I really hate that word, first of all. We're thriving in our own right. We're just not being paid enough yet, or as frequently as we should be, right? So you're in between one gig that will pay $5,000 and then another gig that will pay $20K. And then even the $20K, you have to chase it for months. So you're borrowing, you're fulizing, mshwaring, until that one gig in December where you're making 3,000 again. So it's very precarious, landscape.
Yeah, this is your moment to introduce yourself, ask your question. Pia, you can contribute if you're a DJ in the house and you've had some experience that you'd like to share, or if you work with a DJ and you have a perspective you want to share, this is the moment for us to exchange.
I go by the name of the Hamster. I do stuff. One, big up Coco Em. I was actually at the boiler room you're talking about. I was actually there.
Me too. It was
killer
so sick.
set.
It was
killer
sick.
set.
And
Had a
the
good time.
setup was dope. The vibes. Hey, it was one of the best nights.
Nilidance ni kama nalipwa, nasikuwa nalipwa. I think you guys have spoken something really beautiful about DJs understanding their set and the mist being a middle point. But another thing, just a small addition, DJs and musicians, I'm an event producer, so this is usually just one of my, I take this moment to rant a bit and tell people the small mistakes they're doing. Set time is not the time you're supposed to go on stage. Set time is you're supposed to be already on stage, transitioning. Your set time is not the time you're trying to look for your flash, you can go on stage. Set time means you're supposed to be on stage, starting. She understands. Also understand one thing for DJs, if you are using different decks, speak to the sound engineer, talk to the sound engineer. That's the other thing I do. So it's always very annoying when you have to transition someone and they haven't told you that you have to transition them. Then you're looking at them like, silence at a gig is the worst thing ever. I go to the mist. When it's quiet, some of our voices are like, hey, what's happening, guys? So just that. Silence is never the thing. And also, shout outs to all the Kiambu Road DJs for the noise they make. They do good work. That's the only reason I know Ethic got back together. Only reason. Only reason. So yeah,
so
my contribution.
Let me speak on that. I think one of the biggest failures in our industry, Kenya to be very specific, is discipline, especially when it comes to timing. I don't think we understand the power of the fact that time is of the essence. And I don't know, there's this big cloud that always passes where you feel like your set time is midnight, but you want to show up at 12:30 so that you can show you're a superstar. Guys, I'll tell you for free, the best way to move around in the industry is just to be disciplined. If your set is 12 and you're showing up at 12, you're late. That's the only way. You're late. So I understand. The biggest question will be, how comes the guys who make the most mistakes still repeatedly get booked? So yes, that's why I say our industry lacks a lot in that point. And somebody somewhere needs to correct that bigly.
Maybe just to add real quick, the only reason, and it's not to excuse the lateness, in this specific country, I'll just say the country, it was Nigeria.
Yeah, I knew it.
In this country,
I knew it.
and it's not to say we are better or we are worse. Listen, so basically, it had me thinking, hey, what struggles are these people going through so much so that the earliest they can arrive is 5 hours past the time that they were supposed to. And there was everything from traffic to there's only one deck in this whole jurisdiction. And it's where, then it has to be put on a boda, then it has to go through which traffic. The traffic was 3 hours long through the Victoria Bridge. Then so it's basically to say, whenever you do think of your artists and your venues, just think, okay, fine, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt kidogo. If it's 1 hour late, fine. 2 hours, 3 hours, either you don't care for this work or you're facing some serious hurdles. I'll say being on the other side of this spectrum, because I've been performing as a DJ, being the one complaining like, sound check you guys said was 5. I'm here 5:05, there's no one here, nothing is set up. But now coming from wearing my curator / events venue manager hat, you guys, there's problems. There's a lot of problems. There's not enough gear. There's, I don't know, the sound guy is stuck without fare. I don't know. There's too many issues to ignore and then just keep complaining about the time thing. So we need to address all those issues as well in total, or just think about them. But yeah, there's some venues that honestly, there's hey, you guys, you're waiting for your headliner and then you just leave because you're just like, I can't wait any longer. So yeah.
Wagwan everybody.
Wagwan.
Yeah, I'm Rodney. Na venye Schwaz amesema, mimi wa from Tomboya. Teremka. So, Njerae, you look really nice, by the way. Love your music. Like Schwaz said, there are sets for uptown and there are sets for downtown. I don't think kunafaa kuwa na sets for uptown and downtown. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm here and I'm from there. You get, there are people over there who want to listen to music from the other end. And as creatives, it's our responsibility to make sure that stories are heard from other places as well. You understand? Because the moment you say, this set near uptown and this set is for downtown, you're denying us that privilege or the basic necessity of listening to whatever other people are playing out there. Because like Coco, by the way, Coco, you're really dope, manze. You're really, really dope. There are no bats for Coco. There are no bats for Coco. Coco is dope. Coco is dope, by the way. Coco is very, very dope. I've listened to what you are saying, and I think that's the typical life of a creative, living from one paycheck to another paycheck, hoping that next time it will be better than the last one. Sindio, fuliza nini, kwanza fuliza, Thank God for fuliza, manze. No, it's not a question, it's just compliments. But my ask was, can we stop playing sets based on where you are? Can we just play music for the sake of playing music? Or can we play sets for the sake of playing sets? Because we all want to listen to good music, true or false? Yeah, we all want to listen to music. It doesn't matter where we're from. Like Njerae said, there are people in Kitale who want to see Njerae. Sinukweli. But if the DJ didn't play sets as Njerae, would they know who Njerae was? Exactly, Maze.
That word is just a political term to say. And to be very specific, there is no uptown set for downtown set. But here's the thing. You need to be conversant of where you are and just understand how you're going to curate that music to fit that specific establishment. So the same way she performs here in Kenya is not the same way she did it in Australia. But that whole collective is still herself and the music. So there's the politics of what the industry is, and they'll say anything just to try and put you off. But then you know yourself and you know what you can offer. And your biggest strength as a DJ is being able to read the crowd. You also cannot bulldoze and say, I have to play this here. It will honestly be backfire to you if then it doesn't suit that specific venue.
My name is Victor, but people call me Moshero, aka the Laduxin of Kenya. Special needs are people with talent. Like me, I have cerebral palsy. Last year I didn't have a deck. Now I have a deck. Now I am planning my own event. I'm an event. So my question is to you, because how does the DJing industry incorporate people with disabilities, people with special needs? Question 2, how do I get gigs without being judged?
How to incorporate people with special needs in the industry, how to build a distinct brand as an artist or a DJ.
We like to believe that we are a very inclusive space, but I would like to say that thinking of people with special needs has not been a priority, and I'd like to apologize for that. So we did a training last year with an organization called Strictly Silk. I don't know if anyone knows Strictly Silk. Yes, and we did the workshop right here in this room. And one of the modules was accessibility to events for all persons. And there was things like everything from even how you enter the venue, right? So the Mist currently, like you can enter the venue through the lift. But I will say that you've raised such an important point, because if somebody heard you and didn't understand you, then they would dismiss you as, like you said, being drunk. So I would think that another immediate step that we could take at our spaces, if anyone programs events, you can reach out to Peter. If you have security, you can sensitize them. We have a lot of queer folk in our community, and they come in freely. Like men will come in heels and a bra, and they will not be sumbuliwad at the gate, because our security has been sensitized and been taught to respect everybody across the board, which is not very common in a lot of venues in Nairobi. So I find a lot of people, especially when you're drunk, you're just manhandled by a lot of security. So you've raised so many important points. So first I would just love to speak more to you, because the best way to understand how to, be of service and to support you would be to just sit down and have a chat with you. But I don't think we really have addressed that seriously in our venues. A lot of the venues are very hard to get into. A lot of them, you're in a building, it's on 5th floor. Guys, if you can't climb the stairs, that's it, you're done. Or if it's, for visually impaired persons, how do you support them in front of the dance floor so that they don't get injured? People who can't walk, all of these things need to,
For me, what advice is take advantage of your community and find a manager. It doesn't have to be someone who you have employed as a manager. It can be a person who is your best friend, who you trust, who knows your goals, who knows what it is that you want to do, how to speak on your behalf. And because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you sound, it's what you can do on the decks, So find someone who is able to speak eloquently, because even me, I struggle with that. And for a long time, I actually had 2 managers because it was hard for me to hold conversations with people. So take advantage of the people around you, but be very careful to find someone who is in the same line with, what you want.
You make a very valid point, because accessibility in establishment is very, very hard, and it's also something I'd never thought about. But I can tell you something for free is something somebody cannot take away from you is your gift. And in this era where you can, if you are able to, you can place a camera in front of you and do your mix and upload it to YouTube. And if that's way too much, we still consume audio. So you can still record your audio mix and place it in different platforms. Somebody somewhere a long time ago told me a DJ is a mix. And once it's in any free distribution platform, nobody can take that away from you. So the only challenge would be maybe reaching out to you, but once your talent is out there, nobody can really take away from you. So your gift is the most important bit.
As you can see, conversations was zinaendelea, but we have to wrap. But I always say the conversations don't end here. We continue. I want to thank Goethe Institute very much for supporting Industry Talks, for hosting us here, the sound team, the BTS team, the beverages team. Thank you so much. And of course, Coco Em, who's on her way to the airport. I thank her so much. Thank you so much, Njerae. Such an amazing artist, one of the biggest in this country. Thank you also to DJ Schwaz, Makofi, to him too. And also Makofi to you all. That was it for part 1 of this episode, focusing on the future of Nairobi nightlife, the business, culture, and evolving sound. We will be back next week with the finale episode and part 2 of this conversation as we close off season 5 of VIP Access. Keep it here. And of course, if you have any comments, suggestions, or recommendations as to what we can look into or topics we can have right here on the podcast and at our Industry Talks events, feel free to reach out to us on Gote Institute social media or at Anyiko PR or at my handle, Anyiko Owoko, or of course, Industry Talks. Until then, see you next week. Ciao, ciao. VIP Access Season 5 is proudly supported by the Gote Institute, Nairobi.